ESO has a problem over the last couple of years. It's not combat, it's not performance, it's not class balance, it's events. We might actually have too many of them. Today we're going to break down why the event calendar feels overwhelming, why players are burning out, and what ESO and ZOS in general can do to improve this moving forward. Welcome back to the Tamriel Report, your in-game podcast, where we slow things down and talk about the bigger conversation happening across the community. And one of the biggest conversations right now is event fatigue. ESO has more events than ever, and players are kind of starting to feel the pressure, in my opinion. I want to go ahead before I get into everything and thank all of you for watching the very first episode of the Tamriel Report last week. I said in that video I didn't know how often I would be able to get these out. Luckily, I got this episode done in a week's time, so I got another one up pretty quickly. But I do appreciate everyone that watched, everyone that commented, said they enjoyed the format, so I'm glad you are enjoying it. So let's kind of start with the obvious when it comes to the problem. ESO's event calendar is absolutely stacked when you layer everything out. It kind of becomes clear that it is a bit too much, and I do see why players feel burnt out or don't really even want to participate. You have major events, and I'm probably going to forget some of these, but things like the Anniversary Jubilee, the New Life Festival, the Jesters Festival, White Strake's Mayhem, the Witches Festival, the Undaunted Celebration, the Zeal of Zenarth, if that's even how you pronounce it, Zenarthi. I don't even remember the name of it right now off the top of my head, now that I've just completely went blank. But we also had the New Hearts Week event added in this year. And we've had DLC celebrations in the past. We don't have them as much now as we did before. But you had things like events inside of the Dark Brotherhood and the Thieves Guild a long time ago. And when we didn't have a lot of events in game, I enjoyed those smaller zone DLC celebrations. Now, we still have some of these in game. They will combine several of the zones together and just kind of have a DLC anniversary celebration. So that's still something that they do. They just don't break it up into each individual zone anymore. Then you kind of look at what I would consider the micro or minor events. Things like the Crafter Celebration. You have Battleground Weekend stuff going on if you are a PvP fan. Then you have Golden Pursuits. Now, I wouldn't consider Golden Pursuits to be a thing that players are getting burnout on. Actually, I think Golden Pursuits was one of the best additions that ZOS has ever done to the game when it comes to event ideas. But I'm going to go ahead and throw that in there because that is technically a minor or micro event. When you stack all of this stuff together, there's something always going on in the game, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But at the same time, it feels like event after event, and nothing really kind of sticks out anymore. Like, hey, I want to participate in this event because I know there's going to be great rewards. It's recycled rewards, the same dailies, and they have improved on that somewhat. Some of the dailies have been updated. They've added new quests in. I have been an advocate for a long time saying that they need to go into every single event we have and redo it. Make enough quests to where you can recycle them every couple of years. So if you have year one, for example, of these certain quests you can do in game, you won't see them again until year 3 of that event. So the next 2 years after the first year, you will have different dailies. So you're not feeling like you're just doing the same monotonous thing year in and year out. The way it's kind of laid out right now, it makes a lot of the same kind of grind loops for a lot of people. I see so many comments where people say, I really just don't want to participate in this event. There's only one thing I like in this event reward-wise, because the rewards really don't change that much. We might get 1 or 2 new things and then a lot of older stuff. And I do understand that the older stuff is there for the newer players, and it needs to be. But at the same time, you want event participation across the board, from new players to veteran players. And right now, I feel like most veteran players or anyone that has participated in these events before are pretty much just logging in, getting their tickets, maybe trying to get one thing they don't have, and then either logging out completely or moving on to something else. Also, one thing that I'm not a big fan of is all of the motifs that are just kind of being shoved at you in these events. It's almost like motif deja vu. I mean, it is insane at how many motifs you get. And I remember years and years and years ago when the big kind of motif event was just that anniversary jubilee. You didn't see too many motifs being thrown at you in any other event. So that anniversary jubilee was when you saw tons of people coming online to play, because there was an option or a way, I guess, to get different types of motifs that you couldn't get to drop as easily throughout the year in the game. Now that's just not really the case. And I know for a lot of people out there, if you are in a guild trader, this has really hurt motif sales over the years. I remember, I can think back at least on the PlayStation, and I'm sure it's been like this on all platforms, but on PlayStation you could go maybe 5-6 years ago, pre-2020, maybe 2018, 2017, and you would see some of these motifs going for absolutely insane prices, especially if it was one that was a little more rare than the others. It might be the helmet, the chest, the legs. And so those were the things, for me personally, I would go out and actually try to farm to sell them in my guild trader. Nowadays, you don't really see motifs going for those kind of prices, at least on the console side. I'm not sure if Xbox is as bad as PlayStation when it comes to prices, but everything I have seen out there data-wise kind of shows that our prices are pretty similar, and I know PC prices are a lot higher. But I just feel like the motif fatigue is kind of hurt the game in general when it comes to the players being able to sell these things inside of their guild trader, because you're getting motifs so often, nothing really ever feels rare anymore. And when it comes to new players, I almost feel like it's giving them a lot of FOMO. And I know that's a ridiculous saying, and it kind of is in my mind, that anybody has the fear of missing out of anything in a video game, but all games do it. All games add things in now to make you want to log in, or to make you have to log in. I guess I should kind of rephrase that, because I feel like a lot of players feel like they have to log in like a chore when these things are added into any video game out there. And it doesn't matter what you play. Every single game does this now. From the way they lay out their battle passes to the way they have in-game events. And if you watch the channel, you've been around the channel, you all know I play tons of different stuff. But my main kind of games have always been first-person shooters and RPGs. And there's tons of first-person shooters that I play that do this exact same thing, where you have a battle pass system that you purchase and you get, things in it throughout the year, or you have a free version you can get things in throughout the year. But they also have these mini in-game events that go on that are special things that are only out for so many days or a week or something like that. And it makes you feel like you have to get on and play to get these items, because once they're gone, they're gone. Now, ESO is doing a bit of a update to this. Things will be added into the bazaar that have been in the game in the past, but I still kind of fear that they're not going to have everything in that bazaar. So new players will still have that FOMO feeling when it comes to events. They feel like they have to get on and play, or they have to kind of go away from whatever else they're doing in game and start participating in these events that are going on just to make sure they get those new items. And to me, this kind of leads to confusion about what's actually important for new players. What do you really need out of these events? What is a necessity? And what is more of a just kind of thing to have? And a lot of it's just stuff to have, let's be honest. But I feel like that is another issue that newer players kind of face. And it also makes new players, to me, feel like, at least the way I look at it, if I was a brand new player, it would make me feel like I'm always kind of behind, because there's so many events. I'm just going from event to event to event to event, trying to get all of this stuff. And I'm not really getting to play the game as much normally as I would because of the event fatigue. And I did mention a little bit about guilds. I do feel like the guild burnout is there as well. And I know a lot of guilds have, places they trade. Some guilds are more social, some guilds are role playing, whatever the case. Some guilds are PvP, but I think for the trading guilds, it puts a lot of pressure on them to go out and make sure. And I know everyone handles how you kind of pay your guild fees and things differently, PC compared to console. But when it comes to console, a lot of players feel like they have to go out and farm to get a lot of stuff to put up in the guild trader to sell. That way they can make enough money to pay their, weekly guild fees, their monthly guild fees, however, your guild decides to charge you to be inside of that guild, at least on the console side. Like I said, I know that's kind of different on PC. But it makes guilds kind of, I don't know, strange to me, because when you see events going on, I remember years ago, once again, kind of have to go back in time, where when events were going on, guilds were just active as could be. You could see just chat going crazy, people talking about what they got, this drop, that drop. Now I feel like when it comes to how guilds handle just these events, it kind of is like a chore instead of actual fun. Events used to really feel special. Now they feel a lot like homework to some people. It's just like you have to get on and do it. It's like it is a chore. Another issue to me is retention. Almost every event follows the exact same structure. Do a daily, get a box, hope for whatever out of that box, spend your tickets, repeat next week with a different theme, next month with a different event. And some events, I will say, are not quite that bad. But some of the events have become so similar because we have so many. The smaller events really just feel like it's the exact same thing with just, different quest. It's just a different quest from a different event. And I feel like that repetition problem is also a big issue. So there needs to be something done within, kind of ZOS in general looking at this. And I don't ever really see them comment too much about this to people that talk about it on the forums. And it gets mentioned a lot, so I know they see it. And I was really hoping we would get smaller events kind of time-wise, where the Hearts Week event was perfect in length to me. As long as you can get everything and not get duplicates and stuff like that within that week period, that's a really good time frame. Then only have a few certain events throughout, of course, the year that are those bigger, larger events, maybe like your Halloween event, your anniversary jubilee, things like that. The big main 2 to 4 events we have throughout, ESO. And then kind of shrink the rest of them down. Give better rewards, give new stuff each year. And also, have some of that older stuff, but make it worthwhile. For today's kind of rotating segment I've talked about before, I may, give some tips here to new players, talk about Reddit posts, talk about things in the community, just kind of whatever. Today's segment, I want to talk about a recent Reddit post that I did see. Someone shared a screenshot of their character and asked the question, does anybody else only use one character now? And I was surprised at a lot of the answers that I saw. Well, I wasn't really surprised. I kind of figured the answers were going to be what I did see. But it is interesting to see that a lot of players are really only using one character nowadays. And for someone like myself that has played since the game came out on console, I do have the max amount of characters. So whatever that is now, 20. And I used to play with each one of them all the time. And I'm still probably one of the more rare players that you'll meet because I still play with each of these a lot now. I've gone to playing more with probably 5 to 6 of them, within a certain time frame than I would all of them. But I have lots of different tanks, DPSs, healers, and I really like to go in and experience the game with these different characters, especially if I'm doing things like dungeons or trials. But the comments within this were interesting, considering a lot of people did say they had multiple characters. I can kind of understand why a new player may only have one character, and that's all they play. And this kind of ties into today's topic. When the game consistently pushes you into doing things like events, dailies, tickets, farming, and repeatable tasks, it becomes hard to maintain multiple characters. It felt like years ago it was a bit easier. No one wants to go in and try to farm an event and have to do it on 20 characters a day. That is definitely a chore, believe me. I have done it in the past. But I find it very interesting that the player base is kind of going more in that direction, where they have more than one character, but they only ever really use just their main one. And of course, my character that most of you see in every single video, including this one, is the very first character I ever made. So yes, this is the character that I've always used. I have the character I have the most hours in, but I play on all of my other characters. But at the same time, it is a tedious task to have multiple characters in game now. And most people, I think, just use them for pretty much mule characters if their ESO Plus runs out, if they don't want to purchase it for a certain month. Because believe me, I've done the same thing. Where I don't want to purchase ESO Plus that month, maybe. Maybe I'm working on something else here on YouTube. Maybe I'm playing something else. I don't get to log in ESO as often. So I just decide to, every time I log in, just to pile everything on a kind of one of my extra characters and treat it as a mule to hold on to the stuff until I get ESO Plus again. Now, I know this probably sounds like I've been complaining the entire time, and it's not really that I'm complaining. It's just frustrating to see something in ESO that was, in my opinion, a lot of fun when you used to have events. People were excited for these events to kind of, come into the game. Now it just feels like I said, it's a lot of burnout because they're just back to back. I do think there are some improvements that ZOS can make. Like I said, fewer events, but higher quality, maybe shortening the event times, more unique rewards, seasonal structure. Since we're going into the new season idea, maybe they're going to change this up. Maybe they just haven't mentioned it yet. There's a lot of ways they could tie in these events to the seasonal structure instead of that kind of constant rotation. Maybe more breaks between events. And that's kind of ties into the, once again, having shorter events. More variety in kind of the gameplay loops of your everyday task. And I think also more meaningful one-time rewards instead of those recycled ones. Yes, have all the past rewards so players that are new can get them. But more meaningful rewards that you get each and every event, I think would make players continue to play that event. I think you need some type of way to keep players engaged in the event from start to finish. Because like I said, most people are going into an event. Most people are just going in to get their tickets for the day, to get that one item they need, and then they do not participate in that event for the rest of the time. There needs to be something inside of these events that make players want to start participating from day one of the event to the last day of the event. Events should feel exciting again, not just like another chore pretty much on the ESO calendar. The next episode, we're going to talk about the new player experience inside of the Elder Scrolls Online, kind of how it's changed over the years. The game gets tons and tons of players, thousands every year. You see new players each and every day inside the game. I want to kind of talk about how this is for new players. Is it friendly? Is it gotten better? Has it gotten worse? And we'll dive into that next time. Thanks for listening to episode 2 of the Tamriel Report. Leave me a comment, let me know your thoughts about the subject this week of too many events. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, I would appreciate a like. If you hadn't subscribed yet, you can do that as well. I would really appreciate it. And I'll catch you all next time. Peace.